During the Brexit referendum, there were two big things that were talked about. First of all, was what would happen to all these EU regulators that were here, that had their offices in Britain. One of them was, of course, the European Medicines Agency that had its home in London. And because it had its HQ in London, everyone else in the pharmaceutical world and industry wanted their offices in London too. And that going, that it has moved now very recently, means that all those other pharmaceutical office and regulators that want to know what the regulator was saying, so it can just nip down the road and find out, well, then they're now moving as well, leaving massive holes in the city of London. And remember, the European Medical Agency, massive employer in London as well. I think they employed about 800 staff, something in London. But it's not just 800 staff, it's 800 very highly trained staff who knew what they were talking about when it came to UK, the medical industries and the regulation that went into them. So that is now something that we had and is gone. And even if we do rejoin the European Union, there is very little chance, and I mean very, very little chance, that regulator moves back to London. That is gone. That is permanently, probably gone forever. But the other thing, of course, we were talking about was supply chains and issues. Because guess what? Most of the medicines that we import come and are made in Europe. So imposing Brexit barriers was going to be a problem. And as many people warned at the time, was going to cause medicine supply shortages. Guess what's happening? Medicine supply shortages. This is not good. This is not good. This is the type of stuff, I want to talk about. But this is impacting so many people, from things like cancer drugs, basic almost pharmaceutical stuff in nature, HTCs or hormone drugs. There's a ton of stuff at the moment that is just so many shortages. It's just so many shortages going on. And it's just absolutely criminal in nature that this isn't bigger news, because it should be, because this is a direct consequence of Brexit and breaking our supply lines by having those barriers up now in place. This is why one of the things that Labour should do is they should do an alignment agreement on medicines so that we can remove these barriers again. But of course, that would mean having to sign up to EU regulatory standards when it comes to medicine. But to be honest, that's not a bad thing. As we've said before, when it comes to regulations, the EU is a regulatory superpower. It does more often than not get regulations very, very much right, far more than it does wrong. And of course, if you want to do business in the EU, well, hey, you have to follow the rules and regulations. So anyway, before we get more into this and why in particular the UK is being so hard hit by these medicine supply shortages, please do remember to click on the like, share and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and an affiliation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button, and there's the Pony Club you can join down below as well, the YouTube subscription service as well. Of course, just as if you join the Patreon or the Pony Club, you will get access to the weekly videos that we make specifically just for those people. So thank you very much. And of course, you can always just hit the like, share and subscribe button. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, that will also help out there as well. So why in particular are we being hit? Well, you remember when a couple of days ago I said guys, it's not really a good idea to maybe encourage the Houthis to, attack international shipping, to, be worried about, these types of things, that we shouldn't encourage these types of things, that, the attacks that happened on the Houthis, to discourage them for saying, hey, if you mess about, you're going to find out. Because guess what? Currently, the European Medical Agency, because of these attacks in the Red Sea, was expecting a lot of shipments of over 400 different types of medicines to be coming from India. Now, because of these attacks, they're having to take the long way around, which delays the shipment of these medicines, meaning that during that time, Europe is now having to ration those medicines, meaning that they ain't exporting those medicines, that they've put export bans on some of these medicines so that they can keep a supply within Europe, so that European countries have the supply that they need. Guess what? We ain't part of that anymore, because why? We Brexited, meaning we ain't part of that anymore. Not only that, but with the extra paperwork that continuously UK pharmaceutical companies, European medical pharmaceutical companies, other pharmaceutical companies say as well, is making problems harder to import medicines into the UK. Because not only do you need a UK approval, but the UK laboratories that approve these medications cannot approve these medicines fast enough, because remember, we used to have the capacity of all the European labs working to that same hymn sheet, making sure that they are all, compatible with Europe, with EU regulation. Now that's gone. We don't have access to those EU labs anymore. We've only got access to the UK ones, and they just simply are not enough to handle the continued capacity of new drugs that come in that need to be approved for, patients in the UK to need. And of course, bear in mind, it is very, very likely that a lot of shipments of medications probably also getting caught up in the in that Red Sea crisis at the moment as well. So once again, just something we should pay attention to, because you may know someone who might need cancer drugs, and because of the Houthis interfering with world trade, then you getting cancer, or you're that person who might be getting cancer drugs or whatever, ain't going to have access to them. And of course, it's not just that, but Brexit even more increasingly is becoming a problem. And what's even more shocking is that 4 out of 5 pharmacists have now faced physical aggression due to the fact that when they have said to patients, I'm sorry, we don't have your medicine because, medicine supply shortages. And bear in mind, this is something that has gone up for the past 3 years, which is something else that hasn't been reported. We have seen an increase on medicines more and more. Kind of important. We should probably look at trying to sort this out. But doing so, of course, would mean that we'd have to align with EU regulations, that we would have to submit to, EU rulings. But of course, that wouldn't be a bad thing, because we were pretty much acceptant of all the EU medical relations and rulings anyway. But its base used to be in the UK. I think we were pretty okay with okaying EU medicines regulations when the regulatory body used to be based in London. I think we're okay with that. But of course, this will continue to solve problems. And I think this is something Labour is going to have to sort of step up and solve by saying, yeah, we're just going to do an alignment deal with you on that, on medicines. Labour have said this is something that they want to do. They want to sort of work and improve this deal. If they want, this is something that they're going to have to do and trying to solve, because as we saw very recently from the Sadiq Khan commission study by London City Hall, we haven't managed to break away from trade with Europe, or all that loss of trade that we would experience because of Brexit can be taken up by other third parties. Well, guess what? That hasn't happened. We are still dependent on the EU for our trade. Why? Because trade gravity, as we always said, mattered. Distance in trade matters. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, please do remember to hit the like and share button on your way out. And of course, as always, you can leave a comment down below as well. And we'll see you all next time.